It is, first of all, Kirsten, thank you for this invitation. This has been a wonderful weekend. My wife and I have enjoyed it. For those of you that don't know, my wife and I were both American, but we actually met in Europe. I was a student missionary in Iceland for 2 years, from 88 to 90, and my wife came the last year. She was from Atlantic Union College, which used to be near Boston. I was from Andrews, so I had to go to Europe to meet another American to get married. But those were, for me, it was 2 wonderful years that really affected the rest of my life. Long story short, graduated from Andrews with a degree in photography, worked for myself for 7 years running my own commercial photography business. One of my clients hired me, and I did corporate communications for 5 years, and then the church called in 2002. I worked at the General Conference for 10 years. And then in 2012, the North American division asked me to work in the communication office, and I became the director a little over a year ago. So that's a lot to happen in a very short time, I guess you could say. It is very impressive to sit in this room and hear these presentations. There are some very talented people working for the church. There are some very scary people working for the church. Sit back there and look over John Beckett's shoulder. He's logged into every one of your Facebook accounts. It's sort of true. If you see something called free Wi-Fi, don't use it. It's him, okay? And he's going to talk about that later. And he showed me what he was doing, and I'm like, I'm never ever going to a cafe and using Wi-Fi again. And Daryl Gungadoo, the church is extremely lucky and blessed to have Daryl Gungadoo. I actually have a twin brother. That's a scary thought, huh? Looks just like me. He worked with Daryl at Andrews when Daryl was in the academy there, and Daryl was this kind of genius child who they put in the computer store. He was so smart that he bought one of the first laptops available when he was about 13 or 15 years old. And my brother said that he bought one of the first working mouses and didn't like it, so he rewrote the driver. Scary. Okay, how can the church use stories? My background is in video production. I moved from photography into video production, and I love stories. I grew up with stories. I got mad last year when the whole controversy started about the record keeper, and we'll go into that a little bit more. Jason Satterland, the person who directed and wrote and produced The Record Keeper, is a good friend of mine. Many of you have been able to see the film. I think you showed it here last year. And there was a discussion that was taking place in media, social media. Adventists in social media can be very bad people. And there was a discussion taking place, and someone said in an article that was printed online that the church should not use storytelling, the church should only use documentaries, the church should not use drama in any extent because Jesus never did. And I was saying to myself, what heresy is this? Jesus told stories. That's how he communicated to people. He told stories, and that's how he can reach people. So I want to share with you a project that landed in my lap probably about 18 months ago. The ministerial department at our division said, we're creating a project called the Pastor's Toolkit. Now, that's not the final name, that's the internal working name. But it's a way of communicating for pastors the tough things that they don't want to talk about. How many pastors do we have here? Your lives are perfect, right? You don't have any challenges. You don't have any, your kids are perfect, right? Never get in trouble. You never have a fight with your spouse. Everything's awesome, right? Yeah. And I'm lying through my teeth, right? You probably face more challenges than most families do. So they wanted to create a way of talking about these things, but getting people to open up. So they came up with 22 different scenarios. Some of these are very difficult to talk about. Some of them are easy things to talk about. Some of them we introduce it through humorous ways. And they hired Rajiv Sigamoni, one of the writers of The Record Keeper, and his wife, and they wrote these scenarios down. And then I hired Jason Satterland and the whole cast, the whole crew who produced The Record Keeper to produce these short stories, and I'm going to share with you. And you're going to be introduced to a series of families. Now, these are actors. None of them are Adventist. Some of them I don't think were even Christian. But we'll talk about how they were affected by this project near the end. So the first story I want to introduce you to, this is the first pastoral family that we are meeting. And let's hope the audio works. Where's Doug, just in case it doesn't? Doug left. Oh no, I'm on my own. Oh, you're good? Okay, all right. Here we go.
Amy, it's 8:45, let's go! What is taking so long?
2 more minutes.
Andrew, what did you just, what did you do? What is this?
What happened?
Look.
Go put on a new shirt.
Hurry, I need to be there early so I can meet the people from baptismal class. Amy, what are you doing now?
I have to get the food ready for potluck.
Why do we do this every week?
Do what?
I mean, I'm always ready on time, but we're always late for church.
James, I know you're stressed because you're preaching today, but don't take it out on me.
Well, can you at least hurry?
Well, can you help me?
What do I need to do?
Guys, I know how we can make this better for next time.
How, smarty pants?
Well, Dad can get that new car he was looking at.
What car?
The Beamer.
Son, do you value your life? If you do, stop talking. Please, just get in the car.
Okay.
Go.
But it was really cool, Mom. You should have seen it.
All right, how many people can relate to that? That's my house on Sabbath morning, and I'm not a pastor. Okay, next story. This one introduces the topic of kids and social media and electronic devices. Let's, can we drop the source audio down a little bit? Because I think it's overmodulating. Okay, great.
Hey, Mom, can I use that iPad that Oma and Opa gave me?
Wash up and get ready for bed.
Then?
And then we'll see.
Fruit Ninja! I'm a Fruit Ninja!
I really don't know how I feel about your parents giving Andrew that iPad.
I'm sorry, I'm eating pie, I'm sorry.
Don't give me that. We need to talk about whether or not he can have it.
What are you so worried about?
The internet? With that iPad, he can look up anything. Porn, violence, anything.
I know.
And kids aren't playing outside anymore. They're just glued to these electronic devices all the time. And they're not learning how to build relationships. They're just always plugged in.
It's gonna spill.
Why did they give it to him? He's 10 years old. What's he going to do with it?
They want to see him.
What do you mean?
Well, they want to FaceTime with him. They live 500 miles away. And whenever they come to visit, my mother always comments that he's becoming a little man.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Listen, we have a computer and a television in this house. Clearly conduits of evil. But we made rules for Andrew to make sure that he uses those devices properly. It's no different than the iPad. Now, and he can use it when we're around, so would you drop that back here?
Okay, you're right.
Yes, thank you. I know I'm right. Thank you.
It's good pie, huh?
Yeah, it's really good. Where'd you buy it?
I made it. What are you talking about?
No, where'd you buy it?
I made it.
Really?
From scratch, absolutely.
I don't know where scratch is, but whatever you... Hey, look at it. It's so good.
And now we're going to get a little more serious.
Sorry I'm late, I got held up.
It's okay. Dinner's ready. Let's eat.
Hey, Dad, guess what I did at school
I
today?
can't believe that the contractors didn't show up again.
Dad,
I waited 45 minutes before I headed home, and by that time, traffic had already backed up.
Dad,
It's okay. If they can't make it, they just need to let someone know so we don't wait out there for nothing.
Dad!
What? Andrew, Michael, what did I tell you about interrupting me? Look, you made a mess. Last week, you trotted mud all over the carpet, and then the week before that, you spilled all of my tools in the garage because you couldn't wait for me to help you.
I was just gonna tell you that you were about to knock the glass off. It's okay, though. I'll clean it up.
Are we hitting home? Okay. Here's the end of that series of stories. Maybe.
It says ginger in it. Should help your throat.
Oh, thank you. Is Andrew asleep?
No. He's crying. You okay?
I'm fine.
I think you may owe Andrew an apology.
No, I don't. He broke the glass because he was being impatient. He needs to act like an adult, and he also needs to be aware of his surroundings.
I know he can be a little careless, but you broke the glass. Look, I know your dad was really hard on you, and that, even to this day, everyone walks on eggshells around him.
But that's not the case.
Listen. You've told me that you don't want to be a father like that, and that you want Andrew to know that you love him.
Of course I do. But he needs discipline.
Right. But he also needs love. You took your frustrations out on him today, and he didn't deserve it. If you want to show him that you love him and how a responsible adult behaves, then you should apologize.
This isn't helping my sore throat. What would I do without you?
You'll be fine. Next time we'll talk about how you should forgive your father. But now you just finish your tea.
Okay, thank you. That's definitely another conversation.
So let's talk about why we produce stories like that. They're effective internally, but can they be effective externally? I'll give you an example. The second to last day we were shooting these stories, we shot these in 6 days. That scene right there, we did 5 takes. As you notice, it's one straight take, pushed through. It took 2.5 hours to light and about 30 minutes to shoot. And then we would tear down, and we'd probably shoot 3 to 4 of these in a day. But the next to last day we were shooting, and we'd shot this scene the day before. And I was really touched. I was like, man, this thing worked really good. We were going to do multiple takes, but after doing that one take, Jason looked at me and said, that's perfect. We can do it as one take. We don't have to do anything different. And I had it on my iPhone. I'd edited it the night before after we finished shooting, and I had it on my iPhone. And so we were shooting one of the scenes that you'll see coming up. And one of the actresses, and I said, again, most of these are not Adventist and non-Christian. We shot these in Portland, Oregon. She was in this room we were using as kind of a green room, and she was rehearsing her lines. And I walked in just to see how she was doing. And she seemed nervous, and I said, let me show you something. And I pulled my phone out, and I showed her that scene. And she said, wow, these are amazing. Are they all like this? And I said, yeah, they're really good. We're really happy with them. And she said, and this is a church that's doing this? I said, well, it's a denomination, yeah, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I want to know more about your church because you care enough to produce something this good. Everything we do should be the best that we can because it represents us to the world. That was my takeaway from that project. We can affect people, even though this is a, quotes, internal project. The quality of the things we produce can touch people on the outside if they're exposed to it. Okay, let's meet another family. This one's a little different.
I'm stuffed. I don't even want to know how much lasagna I just ate.
Thanks so much for having us over. This was great.
Don't mention it.
Yeah, we know how it is to move, and we're glad to have new friends in the area.
Hey, not as happy as we are. Gosh, in Nepal, we just had so few people to talk to.
Yeah, just getting the groceries each week, it was such an adventure. Oh my gosh, there was this one grocer, Anouk, and Anoush, and this one time we went to go see him to get some vegetables, and he just kept trying to sell us this freshly slaughtered venison.
It was not venison, it was lamb.
I think there was lamb and venison. But anyway, this thing is hanging there, warm and just dripping from the slaughter.
It was not dripping.
Would you like to tell the story?
No, you're doing a great job.
What is your deal, huh?
Because you over-exaggerate about everything. You weren't even there. This story happened to me.
So what?
So what? So what if everything's a lie?
Do you really want to do this right now?
I'm so sorry.
So, who wants some cheesecake?
Ever been in that situation? Hopefully not the one couple, you know. Okay, let's revisit this story about 2 minutes later. And this is how we introduce a tough subject.
I just love that sweater.
Oh, thank you. I just got it. I'm really trying to update my wardrobe, you know, now that we're back in the States. Keep things a little more current. Yeah. Well, if you need help, you know who to call.
Thanks.
How are you and Mark doing? Are you guys okay?
Yeah. It's nothing. You know, same old stuff.
Yeah? It didn't seem like nothing.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just so frustrated lately, you know? It pours out of me. Just can't even stand to be around the guy.
What happened?
Complicated.
Like how?
Ever since we've been back in the States, I mean, things have just been so different. You know, we haven't been intimate in months. And, gosh, I mean, just the other week I caught him looking at pornography. You know, I don't know what to do anymore.
Have you talked to anybody?
No. And I know he won't either. I mean, it just kills me every week to hear him preach about love and honesty.
That would be really difficult.
It is. And I just want to stand up and tell everybody that he's a hypocrite.
No, I don't. You can laugh because I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah. You're in pain? Yeah. With good reason. You know, there's a lot of really great resources for things like this.
I'm here.
And I would be happy to help you. We could look together.
That'd be great. You'll get through this. Thanks.
Tough, huh? way they're designing these is they're designed to be viewed, and they're a discussion starter. So you can have a bunch of pastors get together, or the wives, or families, and you can show them, and it's a way of introducing a difficult topic, and then start a discussion. And they're going to be put together. We're hoping they'll come out this summer, and you'll have all the videos, and then you'll have printed resources that can go along with it, and it'll be a whole series on a DVD. They'll be available from the North American division. Okay, let's meet another family.
I don't want to move again.
Sweetie, we have to move. The conference is transferring your father to a church that has a real need.
Tell them no.
Honey, you know that's not the way this works.
Well, I'm not going. Why are you making me switch schools my senior year?
Sweetheart, it'll be okay.
And what about Neil? I'm not going to live 4 hours away from him.
Now you're just being overdramatic. You can still talk to your boyfriend, and you know that.
This is so unfair.
You're right. It is unfair. But honey, life is unfair.
This isn't your sermon, Dad. You can't fix this in 30 minutes.
Stop it and be nice.
And so what? Am I going to have to go to that stupid academy cousin Jackie goes to? No discussion?
You love your cousin Jackie. I thought you'd be happy to move closer to her.
I don't want to go to that school.
Okay, let's discuss this. Fine, we can discuss it. Tony?
You're almost 16, okay? Can be part of the decision.
Yeah, you are 16, and you know what? Here's what I say. Let's drive down together this weekend. You can look at Jackie's school. If you don't like it, then we can look at what else is available. What do you think of that?
Fine.
Love you, honey. She gets this from you.
No, she doesn't.
Yeah, she does. My family's perfect.
That part at the end was all ad lib. It was supposed to end with she says fine and gets up and walks away. And then the two actors kind of hit it off. The one guy's actually a comedian. We flew him up from LA to be in that part, and man, it was hilarious. It's like, we got to leave that in. It's perfect. But it does a good way through humor of introducing a tough subject. How many of you have one of those at home? The teenager. Yeah, there you go. Was it accurate? Yeah, okay, all right, good. I've got a 13-year-old and I'm scared to death. Okay, let's take a little bit more serious look at this family.
Lord, we're just so lost right now in what we can do. Please help us to be the parents that Sam needs us to be. And Lord, surround Victoria with your Holy Spirit as she talks and listens to Sam. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I'll be right there with you, honey.
Okay.
I'll be right there.
Okay. Sam? Sam? Honey? Can we talk? We're worried about you, honey.
I'm fine. I'm just tired.
Mrs. McNeil called and said that you never showed up for practice yesterday.
I'm just not into it anymore.
Is this about Neil? Is it about the move?
I'm fine. I was probably gonna break up with Neil anyway, and can you just leave me alone?
Sweetie, you know, I know how hard it is to be a teenager. And it is totally okay for you to have some bad days. But it's not like you to miss practice. Do you remember that time you had strep throat and I practically had to strap you in bed to keep you from missing one practice? And now you're sleeping all day. You're not eating. I'm really worried. Sam, are you...
What, Mom?
You know what? I don't even know how to ask this. Have you ever thought of trying to hurt yourself?
Like I said, some of them get serious. So do you think these will work? Yeah? Good. Will they work outside North America? Okay. Okay, next project I want to share with you was the first one I worked on when I went to the division. So I got hired, and I went in the first day, and my boss said, I got a great project for you. You can do it in 2 months. I go, okay, good. He goes, I want you to take each one of the 28 fundamental beliefs and turn each one into a 90-second video. And I was like, what? And my first response was, can I cut it down to 10? Because they're very insular. Most of our beliefs were good, as we've talked about this earlier here. We're good at preaching to ourselves. They make sense to us. Well, do you understand all 28? They're good at, I thought we have a soundtrack under my. So we decided to make a 90-second version of each one. And we went all over the country, and we filmed all sorts of people, and we filmed pastors, and we filmed teachers, and students, and regular lay members. But we told them, first of all, when you're talking to the camera, you're not talking as a pastor or a teacher. Your title doesn't exist. You're an Adventist first and foremost. And here's the second challenge. You're not talking to other Adventists. You're not even talking to other Christians. You're talking to people that probably have never even opened a Bible in their life. Does that change your perspective? Does that change how you present it? And you can't quote any Bible texts. That was the hard one. Everyone wanted to open the Bible and say, I want to talk to you about this. No, can't do that. So, it was a challenge. We finished all 28 fundamental beliefs. We put them available. I'll give you the website address in a little bit. They're all linkable. You can use them if you want to. If you don't want to use them, that's fine. I want to share one with them right now.
In high school, we had a recital one year. Teenage musicians, they were already pretty good at what they did. There was one musician, though, that struggled from the beginning. His fingers stumbled, and they were all on top of each other. You could see his frustration building until one point he just lifted both of his hands and dropped them, pounded on the keyboard. It's like we heard every note all at the same time. The music teacher joined the student on the stage. We said to him, you know, sometimes we just need a do-over. We need to start fresh. One way of thinking about baptism is a fresh start. Baptism acknowledges where I am, but it announces where I'm going. It's a priority to live life with God, no matter where I've been, what I've done, what I've thought about doing. Baptism isn't to make us perfect. It's to announce a priority to live first with God. Even though that recital was long ago, I'll always remember because the teacher walked off the stage with the student and entered again and sat down beside him. The teacher said to the student, now start over, and I'll stay right here with you. And what we heard was simply beautiful.
So if you want to use those are on a website we created called mywaytojesus.com. Okay, let's talk about the subject everyone wants to ask me about, ordination. No one's heard of that, right? That's kind of a hot topic. So the second big project they had me work on after we did all the belief videos, the ministerial secretary walked in my office and said, I need you for a day to go to a pastor's meeting and interview a couple of pastors about ordination. Sure, no big deal. Well, that turned into 30 interviews in one day. And then they said, oh, we want to do more. So for the next 3 months, we flew all over the country. And I interviewed 75 theologians, compiled more than 75 hours of stories and content on the issue of ordination. Now, our division, our research committee, our TOS committee, very strongly came out in favor of ordination. So much so that we actually put we tried to find 2 theologians to go on the committee who were against ordination. And we couldn't find 2 trained theologians in North America who were actually against ordination. We found a church historian that was, and then someone from the General Conference said, oh, I'll be on the committee. So he was on the committee. And they had a minority report, which they gave them 20 minutes. We did a presentation at our year-end meeting. It was 4 hours long. And we had Dwight Nelson and all these other famous pastors and theologians getting up there and giving presentations. And I'll show you the website where you can watch the whole thing if you want to. And all the written material is up there. And a lot of the stories that we showed, what we got were stories from people who told stories about Ellen White, about our church history, things I had no idea of. Do you know why you had to be ordained to fill a certain position in the church? Did you know that it came back to finances in the United States in the early 1900s? The financial collapse hit, and the church needed to cut positions, and the easiest way to do it was to say that you had to be an ordained person to fill the spot. And that allowed them to lay off all the women. At that point, you had women who were department directors, who were working as pastors, and allowed them to cull the field of employees and keep the men in. Did you know that? There's lots of great things that you'll find out. I want to show you, we did a video to introduce our report, and I'm going to share that with you now.
Lord,
Oops.
we're just so lost right now on what we...
This is what happens when you do PowerPoint at 2 in the morning.
In the last days,
God says,
I will pour out my spirit
on all people.
Lord,
in the last days,
we're just so lost.
in the last
When you have 2 video files on top of each other, it doesn't work.
in the last days,
God says,
I will pour out my spirit
on all people.
Your sons and daughters will prophesy.
Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams.
Even on my servants, both men and women.
I will pour out my spirit in those days.
I believe in God the Father,
our Savior Jesus,
and the Holy Spirit.
I believe in the church.
The faithful church.
The faithful church.
The faithful church.
I believe in the calling of God's people as ambassadors of grace and truth.
I believe in the soon coming of Jesus.
So let us serve him.
With all hands engaged.
Experiencing the transforming power of Jesus.
Until he comes.
Just as the body, though one
has many parts.
We all are different,
but we form one united body in Christ.
Why?
So everyone who calls on the name of the Lord
will be saved.
We stand united in mission.
We stand united in mission.
We stand united in mission. We stand serving together until he comes.
And if you want, everything is available on this website, ndordination.com. All the videos are linkable. Most of them are downloadable. We actually had the whole presentation filmed. It's broken into different parts. All the written materials is available there. You can also get an electronic copy of our printed book that we gave, which was 250 pages long. That was our TOSC report. I was at the General Conference TOSC Committee when most of the other divisions gave their reports because I helped give the NAD presentation. One division's report was 20 pages long. And it took them 10 minutes to read it. And we were given an hour, and we used exactly our full hour. And after we got done, Pastor Stelly, who chaired the committee, said, well, I commend you on using all your full time. No other division did that. And he held the book up and he goes, this is amazing. So I urge all of you to look at the material and share it with people. I know I'm preaching to the choir here. And there are other areas of the world that don't understand this. And I'm going to preach for a second because I got 2 minutes left. There's an editorial coming out in our Adventist World next month that I wrote. And when you look at the issue, and our theologians spent 3 years looking at this issue, but it wasn't just 3 years because this started as a subject that was investigated in the early 1970s. We've been looking at this for a long time. We've been putting this off for a long time. But when the theologians, those that agree and those that disagree, cannot come up with a strong biblical reason against ordination or fully supporting ordination, and some people will disagree on that, it becomes an ecclesiastical issue, which I said is great because my opinion counts. I'm not a theologian, but I've worked in the church long enough. I've been to 120 countries around the world. I've been to every division. I've seen the church on every level, from little tiny churches in the bush to the largest Adventist church, and I'm preaching, the largest Adventist church in the world, which is 7,000 members, was started as a church plant in 1985 by a woman with 5 people in her living room. And she's still the pastor today. And that church planted 118 more churches. You cannot tell me that God cannot use women in ministry. And when I see stories like that, because it's an ecclesiastical issue, it's about approach to mission. It's not a doctrinal issue. It's about who is called to do ministry. And God has called all of us, men and women. And who are we to tell God who he cannot use? Any questions? Thank you very much.